Good morning, class. You are welcome to Economics SS2 class. From our last lesson, we were talking about the theory of demand, and we stopped on the types of demand that we have. We spoke about the derived demand, where we said it is a kind of demand where we derive other things from what we are really requesting or demanding for. If you are demanding for cassava, you can derive gari, you can derive flour from such. Then we talk about joint or complementary demand, whereby two demands are linked together. If you are buying car, then you know that you are automatically demanding for petrol. We equally talked about competitive demand, whereby you talk about demand that has to do with other commodities, whereby if those commodities are not really worth it in terms of money, you can change your demand. Then we talk of composite demand, whereby you can have so many things embedded in one particular commodity, so that when you are demanding for that, it can be used for various things. For example, if you are demanding for sugar, you can use it for either baking, or you use it to drink tea, or you use it for any other thing. So today we want to quickly look at the factors that can affect demand. And there are various factors, because when you are talking of demand, it talks about what you really want to ask and what you need them for. The number one thing, like I told us, there are two parameters that we use to measure demand. One of them is price, and the other is the quantity. So we talk about price, then we talk about quantity. Now, the number one thing that will affect our demand is the price of the commodity. If the price of a commodity changes, it automatically affects the quantity of products that a consumer wants to buy. If you go to the market, you have budgeted that you are going to spend 500 naira, and suddenly you get to the market and you realize that the price have gone up to 600 naira. The alternative things you can do, if such a commodity doesn't have an alternative, is to reduce the quantity of the commodity that you really want to buy in order to purchase that same commodity that you want to buy. So price is the number one problem that may affect the demand for a commodity. Now, number two is the price of other commodities. Price of other commodities. For commodities that are having alternatives, they have substitutes. You discover that the moment the price of a particular commodity that you want changes, the tendency is for you to change your demand. If you are going to the market to buy Bonvita, and on getting to the market, you realize that the price of Bonvita have shot up, you can either decide to go for Ovaltine, or you can even change your taste entirely, and then you go for maybe Lipton or Nescafe or coffee or anything. But even if you still want to remain under the main tea, you can either go for Milo, or you go for Choco, or any other thing, which means the price of other commodities can equally affect your demand. The third one is the income of the consumer. If the income of a consumer increases, you discover that the taste of that consumer equally change, and it makes the consumer to equally change the demand. If you have been buying, maybe a consumer has been earning 10,000 every month, and all he does was to buy maybe 2 or 3 Congos of rice in a month. If you should get a job, a graduate that earns 10,000, will only be managing. If you should get the real job and the price increases, maybe he's given now a job of 150,000, rather than buying 2 Congos, he would rather go and buy 1 bag. So the income of the consumer can equally affect the demand. Factors that affect demand. Number 4, it could be weather or climate. Weather or climate. There are seasons when you realize that the commodity that you want to buy will not be in circulation. For example, this is a season when people are not buying or they are not planting maize. We are talking of January. The people will start planting maize, let's say around March, April. Now, if you want to make your pap and you want to make anything that pertains to maize, you discover that the price of that commodity will increase, which may reduce the demand for such commodity. Why? Because the product will not be in market readily at that point in time as a result of weather or the climate for a particular commodity. Also, we have the population. Population can affect the demand for a commodity. When the population increases, demand increases. Because when the population increases, then the number of people that will be demanding for such commodity will increase. But when the population decreases, the tendency is that many people will not purchase that particular commodity. And when you are talking of population, it could be in terms of sex or geographical population. If it is sex, if you have so many females in a particular area, you discover that such commodity will sell more of female attires. And if they are male, then the demand for male attires will increase, while the demand for female attires will definitely decrease. Let us take one more. One of the factors that can affect demand, it is taste and fashion. Taste and fashion. People move with fashion in this our community. People move with fashion, and because they move with fashion, there are times some commodities will be raining at a particular point in time. So people will go for such commodities. But the moment the commodity is not raining again, you see people leaving that, and then they are not demanding for it. The same thing with taste. Our taste changes. And that is why when we are looking at those things, the or the assumptions, when it comes to having our demand not changing, we said one of them should be that the taste of the consumer must not change. Our taste can change as a result of our income. When our income changes, then the taste of what we want changes. If you have been buying inferior things as a result of your salary, and suddenly your salary increases, you discover that your taste will increase, and then you want to buy expensive or ostentatious goods. You now want to leave your status, which make your taste to change. So taste and fashion are part of those things that can affect our demand. Now, we will quickly look at change in quantity demanded and change in quantity. Change in quantity demanded and change in quantity. Now, we are talking of change in quantity demanded. And when you are talking of change in quantity demanded, it implies that there is a change at every point of a demand curve. We have told us that there is a demand curve which we have, and on each of the demand curve, we have various points. So when you are talking of change in demand, you discover that demand changes as a result of price. And when the price of a commodity changes, then the quantity demanded will equally change, because we have said that price and quantity are the two parameters through which we measure demand. So change in demand implies that at various points on the demand curve, there are prices and quantities that are attached to them. So let us assume that the price of a commodity is allocated at the y-axis, while the quantity is on the x-axis. When the price is 1 naira, you see that there will be the quantity demanded will be 4. But the moment the price changes to 2, then the quantity demanded will equally change. Then when the price changes to 3, the quantity demanded equally changes. So when you are talking of change in quantity demanded, it means as you are going, as price changes, the quantity you are demanding will equally change. But that does not mean that you are changing your consignment or the commodity. But all you are doing is that you are reducing or you are increasing the quantity of a commodity that you are buying. And it can either be increase in quantity demanded or decrease in quantity demanded as a result of the price. So price determines the change that comes up in quantity demanded. Also, we have change or shift in demand. Change or shift in demand. When you are talking of change or shift in demand, this means that as a result of the increase in price or decrease in price, you are going to change your demand entirely. And this always occurs when you have two commodities that are competing with each other. Just like the other example that we make the other time. This is our demand curve. This is our demand curve. If this is the price and this is the quantity, when the price of a commodity changes, let's say you are going there to buy clothes, and then you have one specific type of clothes in mind that you really want to buy. But on getting to the market, you discover that the price has skyrocketed and there is nothing you can do. The next thing you have to do is to look for an alternative. If it is a lace, you can decide to change it to Ankara. And so this one will now be our demand number 1, which is what you have initially in mind. You are going there to buy lace. But when you now got there, as a result of price, let us settle for Ankara. That means you are now going to have another demand, which is different from the initial demand. And so when you have something like this, you have shifted entirely from what you want to demand to another demand. Unlike here, you are still demanding for the same commodity, but the price of that commodity has forced you either to increase the quantity that you will purchase or to decrease the quantity you are going to purchase. But when you come to change or shift in demand, you are moving away from the initial demand to a new demand. And that is what we have as far as a change or shift in demand is concerned. Now, we are talking on this one when there is a decrease. For this one, this is a decrease in demand. And where you have another graph whereby this one is now your D1, this one becomes your D2, You are talking of decrease in demand. This is increase in demand. Why this one is decrease in demand? Because as a result of shifting, you are now going to buy more here. This price is higher. Lace, you want to buy lace. You are planning to spend 5,000 and they told you that it has become 10,000. If you go to the market and then you change it to Ankara, you discover that Ankara will now cost you maybe 1.5. You are going to buy more of Ankara because the money here will buy more of Ankara. So this one is now increase in demand as a result of price. But when you come here, let's assume that you are going before, that you wanted to buy a particular thing, and then you discover that the price have so much increased or have decreased that you are now looking at it that maybe it is now inferior. Maybe you got to that place, you wanted to buy Ankara, you got to the market, then you couldn't get original Ankara. You now made up your mind that, okay, let's look for an alternative. Let's buy lace. At least we are sure that one will last. Then you are going to buy less because the money for lace will be more than the money for Ankara. So as a result of that, we are going to decrease your demand instead of increasing the demand for that commodity. So when you are talking of change in quantity demanded, because it can cause a lot of challenge for students, when you are talking of change in quantity demanded, it is different from change in demand. You may not put shift there for you so that it can confuse you. So change in quantity demanded means you are still on the same demand curve. But being on the same demand curve, you are at a point in time, and the point you are can either increase or decrease. But when it comes to change in demand, in order to differentiate, that is why we put the shift, so that you know that the demand curve will shift, move from one point. And in most cases, this one occurs where you have alternatives and where your taste can easily change. But when it comes to this place, most of the commodities that fall in this category are commodities that doesn't have alternative, or as a result of our taste, you don't want to change your taste so that you don't look inferior. So because our demand sometimes depend on our status. So the status determines. For many people to maintain the status, rather than shifting or buying another thing, they would prefer to decrease their demand in order to still maintain the status that they want to make. So let us take note of the differences that occurs in the two, and we will not be confused. Thank you.
Very technical.